Whakatane residents rallied over the weekend to protest the loss of crucial maternity services from their local hospital. Hundreds participated in a Hikoi after the resignation of 4 of the hospital's 5 obstetrics staff in the last year resulted in Health New Zealand scaling down services to a primary birthing unit. The closure leaves expectant mothers with high-risk pregnancies or in need of C-sections to travel to Tauranga for care. Zoe Howe was among the first new mums to make the trip for an emergency C-section last month and joins us alongside Petition organiser Kat Walsh Paton. Good morning to you both. Lovely to have you on the program. Zoe, can you tell me about what happened in your situation? You were already going to Tauranga anyway, but then things took a little bit of a turn. What happened?
Yeah, so I was planning on having an elective C-section, so I already knew that I would have to go to Tauranga. But what happened was I went in for a routine midwife appointment in my lunch break. I was only 35 weeks pregnant. I still had a week left of work and my blood pressure was really high. So I got sent for some urgent bloods and got told that I had preeclampsia. So what happened from there was pretty much I was monitored and then I was loaded into an ambulance and sent to Tauranga.
That trip takes around about an hour and 10 minutes. What was it like being in that ambulance, being transferred across to Tauranga, presumably with no family with you either?
Yeah, I was 35 weeks, so I hadn't even had a bag packed. Yeah. I was still in my work clothes. We had to stop every 15 minutes to check my blood pressure while we were on our way over there. So it was quite scary. It was quite out of control. My partner and my mum had to go and pack a bag and we weren't really sure how long I was going to be there for or what the process was going to be when we got there.
Yeah. How tough was it not having that, knowing that you were being transferred, how were you feeling? And then again, not having that family support around you. How did that feel?
Yeah, well, we've got 3 other kids as well. So it felt really scary. It felt, we weren't sure how long we were going to be there for. And it ended up that I had to spend quite a bit of time in Tauranga and without any family support because we were so far away.
Kat, can I bring you in here because you wear all the hats, right? As a mama, as a reporter, also as the person who started this petition. So talk to me, why did you start it?
Well, I've had a reasonably similar experience to what Zoe has in terms of being sort of sent away from home straight after the birth of my son 6 years ago. And we were in Hamilton for 3 weeks at the NICU there. And I just remember the whole time I was there, I was thinking, how would you do this if you had kids back home? We just had a couple of dogs back home that we were able to kind of organise care for. But if you had kids, and my husband was torn between supporting me in Hamilton and being back home at work and looking after our house. And when I heard about the changes that were coming at Whakatane Hospital with the maternity unit being downgraded, my heart dropped. And I just thought, this means that so many more women are going to experience that and experience what Zoe has been through, and that trauma and that disappointment in your birth plans being changed and all of the difficulties and stress. And I thought, well, we can't let that stand. We've got to do something about it. I talked with a mum friend. We got a petition rolling, and it's just been going out there. I think we have over 5,000 signatures now.
Yeah, and you had a whole heap of people turn up on the weekend as well as part of the Hikoi. So we've heard from you, Zoe, but I'm just wondering whether, Kat, you would have heard from others and what the biggest concerns are within the community.
Yeah, so the Hikoi was an amazing example of how many people really, really care and feel really awful about what is happening here. I would say there were over 1,000 people there, and that's a big deal for our little community. We're a seaside coastal town. We're all laid back and we're pretty cruisy people. So to come out and march and get all riled up, that's a big deal for us. a couple of weeks ago, there was a hui where Kath Cronin from Te Whatu Ora fronted up to answer some questions from the community, which I think was a good move for them, because up until that point, we didn't have a lot of information about what was actually going on. And at that hui, we heard from people at the hospital, people who work with women in labour and pregnancy. Obviously, lots of midwives are there, and the room was full of mums and babies and pregnant women. And they were all just saying the biggest question was, how are you going to keep us safe? People are scared.
What concerns you most, Zoe? What scares you most about the closure of the obstetrics unit?
Well, for me, my son was born via emergency cesarean at 36 weeks. He had the cord wrapped around his neck twice. He had a big knot in the cord. So that's quite scary to think, if I was in labour, what could have happened. I feel for the midwives too, who are transporting these mums, that it just comes down to them. I had amazing care in Tauranga Hospital. My son was transferred to the neonatal unit pretty much straight away, but he could have been sent back to Whakatane, but because I had further complications and there was no one to look after me in Whakatane, we had to stay there for 11 days. And so that's the scary thing as well, is that it would be so much easier and more safe for mums if we had that service here.
Yeah. Kat, I want to come back to you here because, Te Whatu, there were 4 obstetric specialists at Whakatane Hospital that resigned, and that's going back through to December. Te Whatu Ora says that they have initiated international recruitment efforts to replace the obstetricians, but they anticipate that that process will take anywhere between 12 to 18 months. What more do you think Te Whatu Ora or Health New Zealand could be doing for Whakatane?
One of the assurances that they've been giving us all along, well, at least since the word came out, which I would say they only notified us of the downgrade about 3 or 4 weeks before it actually happened. So just stepping aside for a minute, imagine a 7 or 8 month pregnant woman suddenly finding out that her whole birth plan was going to have to change with only a few weeks' notice. I think that was absolutely terrible communication from them. But if you're looking back at the history of this, it's been over a year, I think now, since the first movements were made with obstetricians out of the unit here, and they've been sort of working with locums to fill those gaps. So they've had over a year. They're assuring us they're doing their best to recruit, but those jobs haven't even been on their Te Whatu Ora careers page until very recently. How can you say that's your best efforts? It's really hard for us in the community to trust them now, saying that they're going to get this fixed, when historically that doesn't seem to have been happening. We've just recently heard, so I think they announced maybe on Thursday last week, that they're going to have a general manager put in position in Whakatane. That's great news, and we're really happy to hear that. But I don't know about you, Zoe. I think there are a lot of people in the community here who would be surprised to hear we didn't have a general manager. Yeah. And that all of those recruitment processes and the staffing issues and everything were having to go through someone in Tauranga or maybe even further afield to approve things and get things rolling. And there's no wonder there's been a bottleneck. That doesn't work for our regions. The centralisation of everything is a big problem for people who don't live in cities. We still need care in our community. And yeah, I'd say there's been lots of balls dropped there.
We so appreciate having both of you on the program this morning and your voices. Zoe, I'm glad everything worked out. Kat, thank you for organising this petition. As someone who also had an emergency C-section, it's such an incredibly scary time. And, you know, I want other women to have the best care, or others that give birth to have the very best care that they can. And you deserve that in Whakatane too. So I appreciate both of you being with us this morning. Tēnā kōrua.
Thank you.
And in a statement, Health New Zealand says the Hikoi shows how strongly people feel about having a local service, and it will put support in place until a full maternity service is back. It says it will have a 24/7 support hotline with a midwife and a dedicated ambulance on standby for transfers. It will also cover expenses for those who go to Tauranga to give birth.